Huh? Oh, greetings everyone! I'm RedParagonG. Welcome to another art video. As a change of pace with these videos, I'll be focusing on another subject of the channel, my amiibo collection. These guys have been a big part of my social media history. In 2016, I began collecting Smash Bros amiibo. It started with Famicom Rob, and worked its way up to Richter. Not only did I train all of these amiibo, but I also gave them characteristics and wrote stories about them. However, 5 months ago, I decided it was time to turn these 10 figurines into actual OCs. For the longest time, they were my entry into the stereotypical OC category of using an already existing character as their base. Their appearances and even some of their personalities were drawn from these characters as well. I wanted these guys to feel like their own thing, so I started my process with my favorite of the bunch, Cobalt. It's no secret that I'm a fan of Roy. In fact, I was obsessed to the point of putting most of my efforts into developing him. This current depiction of him helped ease myself into making more original characters and solidified him as an official mascot for my channel. I'm surprised I didn't do that sooner. I then worked on redesigns for Paladin Figment, which I think turned out great, and now I want to focus on Whirlwind's new look. I haven't done nearly as much with him as I have with Vault, but now's the perfect time to go over his history. Despite getting his claim to fame as an amiibo, Whirlwind didn't actually start out that way. He was originally a custom Smash Run set I created around October of 2016. You know, back when the Cloud amiibo didn't exist. There wasn't a lot to him at the time, but then I created Miiverse bios for him and my other characters a year later. The information in these bios would then be carried over into the modern-day mainframe. Whirlwind is a chill guy who doesn't like nicknames or getting bullied for whatever reason, and he's also big into science?
Science rules.
Not sure why I plugged that in, but it's something I guess. He was developed a bit further once I started creating YouTube videos. His first notable appearance was in the Amiibo Showcase series in 2019. However, his solo episode was never released due to the audio being cut halfway through. Thanks, Banjo. His first public appearance was in a duel episode with Yuna, which fittingly came out the same day I got both of them. Coincidence? Well, kind of. The two of them have a pretty close relationship in universe, so it's not a surprise. He was also in a video with his rival Nocturne, which was one of the first rival battles ever shown on my channel. So with all of this in mind, how do I redesign him? I've come up with a few things. The most important thing to note is the new setting. I've tweaked the Ether Realm since its inception 2 years ago, and I created an area in which robotic beings like the amiibo can live in. I've also gotten new tools to work with, such as a drawing tablet that I'll be using to create Whirlwind's new form. Let's click on some tunes and get to drawing! Okay, so all of the amiibo redesigns thus far incorporate elements from their past and present. For example, Cobalt's design plays off of his interests and is partially inspired by his old sprite form. One idea that struck me was one based around Whirlwind's Japanese name, Toronado. Not only does it sound like tornado, but it's also the name of the horse owned by Zoro. For those of you who are unfamiliar, Zoro is a sword-wielding vigilante akin to Batman. He's quite cunning, and I figured that'd be a nice trait to carry over into the new Whirlwind. By emulating Zoro's iconic hat, I was also able to incorporate an air vent into it. As by the name, Whirlwind is greatly associated with the wind element. Air vents would allow me to visually represent his element and give his design some extra detail. It took me a bit to finalize his head though. Another idea I had was to give him some sort of jacket. Whirlwind is a Player 2 Cloud, which means he uses the Advent Children outfit, so I wanted to reference that outfit in the jacket. I also gave him Mega Man-style cannon arms. These new amiibo designs draw some inspiration from the Mega Man franchise, plus it gave me another opportunity to add more air vents into the design. The rest of the process was just me trying to sort everything out, which took a while since I'm still getting used to my Helio. While I did use it for the last batch of my Smogest prompts, I still have a ways to go with it. Speaking of which, I put all of my Smogest drawings on my Instagram, along with new bios for some of my characters. A bio will be made for the new Whirlwind as well, so if you want to see it, be sure to follow me on Instagram. The link is in the description. Back to Whirlwind for a sec, his shoulders were initially more of a diamond shape, but I rounded them out afterwards. He has a lot of angular parts in the moment, so some rounder edges help to break that up. I then took the completed shoulder and copy-pasted it in order to fit the other arm. Sometimes stuff like that just works. I like to trace the copied layer though, since I find Sketchbook does some weird things to rotated line art. Once I was done with that one shoulder, I noticed how stiff the jacket kinda looked. So while I was finishing up the chest and the left arm, I went back to the jacket and made it more flowy. I wanted some extra dynamism to give Whirlwind's silhouette more flair, and I think it helps give an air of confidence to his pose as well. Whirlwind is a pretty confident character in the RPG universe. Some would say he's arrogant, but he does swallow it in the face of a tougher foe. I wanted him to keep that sort of cool, confident nature he has, and I think this jacket is the best way to portray that. I didn't just want it to be a simple looking trench coat though, so I added some detail to it. This will come more into play when we get to the colors, but we're not quite there yet. I have to finalize the new jacket and chest area first. That also took a bit because of the added details. I suppose that's why time-lapse videos are a thing, aren't they? Thank goodness for that. Once I was satisfied though, I moved on to the legs. They're kinda similar to Koval's, but I took the shoulder design from earlier and brought it over to his knees. His feet aren't the same as Koval's either. I also tweaked the pose from the original sketch since I did that pose a few times now and I wanted to experiment with other poses. I then drew more defined hips that would serve to connect the legs to the chest, because I thought that the torso just being there on its own was kinda odd. I spent a few minutes refining the hips and left leg before I moved on to the right leg and finalized both of their details. The pose on one leg was adjusted slightly to accompany the position of the other leg since it's now facing forward. I also drew his open hand off screen since I kinda almost forgot about it. But anyway, now we can move on to the colors. I would normally have the final palettes for each character on display, but this time I got all of the colors on the spot. I knew I wanted to keep Whirlwind's classic teal blue, so that was the first color I added in. The rest I kinda just felt out on my own. Dark gray, silver, and light gold made up the majority of the canvas, along with some nice green eyes of course. I also brought in some black that I used on my avatar to paint the jacket, though the final palette looks a bit different. You'll see what I mean when we're finished.
Units Mark 04 Whirlwind.
So, here is what I went with for Whirlwind's new look. Or at least the first draft of it. You see, I like how this turned out, but while I was making the thumbnail for this video, I noticed a few things that I felt like I needed to iron out. So I darkened the colors and added more black to the palette, changed some of the patterns, and made the hat a little bit bigger. The hat's not literally a hat, by the way, it just looks like one. I also tweaked his backstory, along with the entire gang, in order to fit the new canon I created. Whirlwind and his siblings once lived in the mainframe, a land filled with digital robotic beings. This land was once connected to the ether realm of old, until one day a great surge of ether caused the realm to change. What caused the surge I will not explain at the moment, but I can tell you that it shifted the continents and gave the amiibo gang new forms. In Whirlwind's case, he went from a swordsman to a robot with weapons built into his arms, and gained more control over his titular wind abilities. He was hesitant and unsure of these changes at first. However, with help from his siblings, he grew to love Mectalios and was even given a new name. Tornad. I borrowed his old Japanese name to create this new one. I should stress that it's pronounced the Spanish way you'd say tornado. He actually gets annoyed when people mispronounce it. As a fully fledged Etherian now, he retains his scientific and calculative persona and mixes it with the cool swagger of Zoro. He's not always lucky, but he uses his intellect to get himself out of sticky situations. He also has a friendly rivalry with Cobalt, which hadn't been established in a few old videos of mine. And that's basically it. I hope you all like this new version of Whirlwind, or Tornad, as he'll now be called. Feel free to leave a like and subscribe for more character redesigns. Check out my DeviantArt and Instagram for more art, and follow me on Twitter to get updates and listen to my dumbass ramble. This is RedParagonG signing off for now. Keep on rocking, everyone.